Hello, my friends. It's Tiffany, and we have a live little red box on my screen. Katie and I were just chatting it up about how things are going here with the Home Organization Challenge. I certainly hope you had a chance to meet your challenge last week. And so we have a couple of good posts for you this week to share as well. And of course, we're going to jump in with this week's challenge. But I guess I do need to let you know, if you are new here, if you have a question, type the word question in all caps or put a bunch of question marks, and Katie will interrupt me if questions pop up, and I will happily answer those questions for you. So welcome everybody, Susan and Barb and Bobby Ann. We're really glad to have all of you back with us again this week. And as I said, we are here for week number 11, paperwork, planning, and process, right? What are we going to do this week? Last week we jumped into all of your digital stuff, and I was so impressed to see what people were doing and thousands of pictures being deleted or edited or moved, and extra drives being purchased, and people really cleaning up their digital world. And it was an inspiration to me also. I have a bunch of email addresses that I set up for different reasons. And so really last week, I went in and kind of culled all those out to try to clean up my own digital world as well. So this week we have a little bit of a different format, the way I put the worksheet and the notes together kind of all in one. As I was working on the worksheet, I kept like throwing these questions in, and then I was like, oh, you got to take that out. That's notes. Thing. Oh, I'm just going to put it all in together, because this week we have a lot of things going on and a lot of pieces to put in motion. So this week we're going to clean up your home office, whether that's a full office or a corner of the family room or a little cubby in the kitchen, wherever it is. Our goal this week is to get that all cleaned out and organized the same way that we did with all of our digital things last week, and using the digital file system and sort of repeating that file system in the real world. So this is not about creating a Pinterest perfect office. It's about building a workspace that makes it feel easy to get things done and difficult to ignore them, right? So how you set up your office, how you present your to-do list, your to-do or inbox file. So that's right there in front of you, sort of shouting out, hey, here I am, take care of business, make it easy to do it and difficult not to do it. It's also really important, I think, in this segment, and this is something I haven't really focused on in previous challenges, to make it pretty or attractive. If you're a guy who's watching this, you might want a different word, but your desk, your workspace should be inviting, like somewhere that you need to sit down and focus, but you want it to feel good, whether that's family photos or decorative items or any of those types of things. So we're talking about function, and also rarely I talk about form, meaning beauty, style. I think the form is going to be important this week to have your finished product look good and maybe spoil yourself a little bit over all the work you've been doing to get organized. So as I said, as I was working through this, I was adding those questions right in. So for those of you who printed your worksheet handout tonight, one of the big questions is identifying how much of a procrastinator you are. And I just kind of put this fun little scale together so you could say, hey, I'm a 1 at procrastinating. I'm really great at it. Or I'm a 10. I'm terrible at procrastinating. I get all my things done. So as you're going through these steps, identifying where you are in the procrastination scale and then why. So there's some questions, some follow-up questions there, so that you can kind of get in sort of in tune with yourself about why are you procrastinating, and taking that time to ask yourself, why am I doing this? And be really honest with yourself is going to make it easier for you to identify why you're procrastinating. Some of us procrastinate about everything, and some of us only procrastinate about certain things. And so identifying not only the things, but the why behind those things is going to help you move forward with making great decisions. I've been told about office organizing that it's not the reason it's the hardest one to do for most people is that not necessarily because it's the messiest, but because it's the most decision filled, right? Everything in your office literally is something that has to have a decision made about it. So even if you think about, back back a little bit. And when you start to think about all the decisions you have to make in your office, then your brain starts getting crazy, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much work. So you start kind of, your brain starts kind of ramping up. And then once you get into it and start getting the task done, it feels a little bit easier, like, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then in hindsight, once you've done the thing, in this case, organizing your office, it really feels like, well, that wasn't so bad, right? And that's common with so much of what happens in life. We get all anxious about what's going to happen, and then we get into doing the thing, and it's not that bad. And in hindsight, it's like, oh, that wasn't really bad at all. So hopefully your office experience is going to be like that. But if you think about the office and the decisions there, when you pick up your mail every day, every single thing that you pull out of the mailbox represents a decision. Everything, whether it's something you're just going to throw away, something you have to shred, a medical bill, a social engagement, an invitation, or a thank you note. Every single thing in that pile has to be dealt with. And it's kind of the only thing in our lives that is like that, something so small that you get every day and you have to deal with every day. And so if you're one of those people who, when you look at that pile, it just becomes overwhelming, and whatever's in there you don't really want to deal with, whether it's bills or medical information, or maybe it's just a social engagement and the holidays are right around the corner and you're getting Christmas cards, and that means you didn't send out Christmas cards, and so you feel bad about the Christmas cards, but you love getting them. There's all these things going on in that little pile of mail. So if that causes you stress every day, I really hope you can push yourself through that every day. Because if you can get through your pile of mail every day, put the advertisements in the garbage, shred things that need to be shredded, open bills that need to be paid, and put them in the inbox, the exercise of going through that little bit of pain every day makes you so strong, not only for sorting mail in the future, but just for life in general. So I really hope, if that's a challenge for you, that you will push yourself to get through that mail, because that is also the thing that makes the most mess in our lives, in our offices, in our space. So then we're going to go through, and I'm not going to read all of the handout because you have it, but then we're going to work through those microzones, kind of getting things tidied up. The big thing I think here is kind of what I'm calling a worst case scenario folder or notebook. And we did this a little bit digitally, and now we're going to add to it in the real world so that if anything happens to you, your spouse or your kids or whoever, they have somewhere that they can go to and sort of handle everything that needs to come up, right? So it's not morbid, it's responsible. And on top of being responsible, it's something that nags at us constantly is, oh, I need to do this. I need to do it. I should get this done. I should get this done. What if something happened? That would make it difficult for whoever. So it's in the background, just, kind of pecking at us. So getting it done in the real world. And if you've already done it, if you've got your will and your medical power of attorney and your financial power of attorney and all those things done, but you have adult children, I hope you will encourage them also. I had this conversation with my boys. They're like, we're not old enough to have those things. But yeah, if you're over 18, you may not know this as parents. If your children are over 18 and you don't have a medical power of attorney over them or with them, then you don't have access necessarily to making those decisions. Or maybe there's other people in the family that your children don't want to have access to those, to being able to make those decisions. So taking care of all that. But now we're going to put it all together in the real world so that we end up with a digital copy. We end up with a physical copy. So we've got that redundancy. If anything happens in the digital world, we're going to have it in the real world. And that's going to make it that much easier. And I had an incident just happen last week or 2 weeks ago now with one of my close friends here. Excuse me. Her and her husband were in a really bad car accident, a motorhome accident, actually. And everything in their motorhome was destroyed. And what they found out was they had coverage, personal item coverage on their insurance for their motorhome, but it was only $2,000. And when you think $2,000 seems like a lot of money, then you start thinking about phones and computers and clothing and jewelry and cooking utensils and every other thing that's not part of the motorhome structure. And they were like, well, that's nowhere near enough money to cover everything that we have lost in this, right? One computer and you're at your $2,000 limit. But it also reminded me of, I had the same situation where I lost a piece of jewelry. I thought I had enough jewelry insurance, but even though I had enough overall insurance, the individual piece insurance was not enough to cover replacing that piece of jewelry. So this is a good time. This is the long way of telling you, this is a good time to look at your insurance as well, your homeowner's insurance, your renter's insurance. Maybe you have something like a motorhome, and look at those coverages and understand them better. Like, we have, this $10,000 coverage. Yeah, but only $2,000 of it goes towards personal items. Or we have $25,000 in jewelry coverage, but it only covers up to $1,000 per piece. So it's a good time to pull out those insurance policies or get them online and take a review to make sure that your coverages are what they should be. So all of that is coming down. So this week is a big, big project, and you're not probably going to get it done this week unless that's all you do this week. But as you work through each of these sections here, it's just going to help you to get that office space set up, get your worst case scenario, a notebook or folder set up, and then again, go public with that. Who needs to know about it? Who needs to know where it is? Who do you trust to have that kind of information? Because you really need to include in there too the printed password list. You can get your mind around that. So that if something happened in your digital world and somehow you lost all that information, and I don't know how that would happen, but we all know people who've been hacked, and people have gotten into their accounts and they lose everything that they thought they had attached to their email account or their Facebook account or whatever. Happened to my husband with Facebook. He got hacked for Facebook and he couldn't access any of his own things anymore. Facebook was zero help on that. So getting it all together and really putting your mind at ease in all those ways, and also having this neater office space. So your master accounts spreadsheet list, there's a bunch of things now that you're going to be able to add to that list. And things like travel and airline programs. So the different categories to include and the different columns that you might have on there. So we're just we went the first step with digital last week. We're just going to build on that this week. Again, bringing things into a printed format into the real world. And I know that freaks you out, maybe to have to print your passwords. So just make sure you have them somewhere secure. I also do this weird thing that drives my husband crazy. I have a password that means a different password. So like if you read my password list, it might say elephants are gray is my password, but what that really means is this password, right? So I just know whenever I see that elephants are gray, it actually means a totally different thing, but I don't have to actually write out my password. So if you're weird about it, well, I shouldn't say weird about it, I'm weird about it. If you're worried about it, that's a better word. Maybe do something like that to simplify that. But yeah, but I definitely print them somewhere. If you have a safe in your home or somewhere you can hide them or whatever, but somebody needs to know in the event that something goes wrong with your computer or they don't have the digital copy, what all that stuff is. And one big benefit that might pop up for you, which it did for me as I was working through this, is all the subscriptions and credit cards and all that kind of stuff that you have out there. I have credit card accounts like for Macy's that I came across when I was doing this. I don't shop at Macy's anymore. Well, where I live, I don't shop anywhere. We don't have Macy's as a department store. So it's a credit card that's just been open and out there for now 6 years. So going through this whole process was cleaning up those credit cards and finding subscriptions to things that I've been paying for and not actually using. So you may go through this process and actually pay yourself a couple $100 just in finding subscriptions for things that you've been paying for and you're no longer using. So it may turn out to be a great thing. I want you to print it. Yes, print it. And add footers to your documents. And if you don't know what that means, there's a little description of what footers are and how to add them to your documents. But this is the breadcrumb trail that's going to lead people to the document on your computer off of your list. And that way you don't have to update every document in your folder every time, because when people go online, whoever goes online to read that document or see that item, the breadcrumb trail is going to get them there, and it's going to have the latest and greatest. So if you made changes to anything or added things or it's going to be there. All right. So this week, your goal is not to finish your office. Your goal this week is to get started. And one thing I kind of skipped over was this, instead of a go back basket, you're going to have a follow-up list. So as you're working through all these things this week, I don't want you to stop in the middle and be like, oh, I found this bill or this subscription or this credit card. I'm going to stop and cancel it right now. I want your go back basket this week to be your follow-up list. And instead of stopping in mid-process, just write that down on your follow-up list and then keep moving through the process of getting organized. All right, so you've got the homework, we called it this week, section 11, homework for week 11. But you also have a tiny task. And that tiny task is the beautification of your workspace. So whether you have a big desk or you have a little cubby, I want you to make it pretty. Again, if you're not a woman, if you're a guy, and I want you to make it inviting. I want whatever's in there to sort of draw you in and make you feel comfortable in there. So this is where I want you to spoil yourself a little bit. That might mean buying, or for all my crafty gals, creating some really pretty items for your workspace, or buying a new desk blotter, or getting a new, this is my mouse pad, this little picture from a trip. Whatever it is to print out. Maybe it's going to be buying sticky notes and matching pens and just really giving that space a refresh so that you feel great about sitting down there or working in that space, that it's very inviting and it feels like you want to be there. So rather than being overwhelmed by the work that might need to be done there, you're like, I want to get in there. I want to sit down with my cute sticky notes and my pens with the little diamonds on the top or whatever it is and work through that. All right, so that is our mission this week. Ooh, but before we finish up, I'm going to talk about, we have 2 winners this week because I wasn't here last week. We had a recorded version last week. So this week's winner, we have 2. The first one is Barb Carlson. And here's what I loved about Barb's post. I bought shelving, and whatever I can only keep what fits on the shelves. And I love that. I love this idea of setting those limits for yourself, and we've talked about them. Maybe they're date-driven, maybe they're size and space-driven, as Barb used here. So congratulations, Barb, and Katie will get you hooked up with a gift certificate this week. You need to email her marketing@theorganizedoption.com, and she may already have your contact information, but just to stay consistent, if you can send her one. And then our second winner was Deanna Snyder this week. So she deleted thousands of photos. She bought herself it sounds like a new drive, so she could clean stuff off her computer, which helps your computer run smoother and helps your life in general be more smooth. And that was interesting and nice. At the very end of her post, she said, I feel like I can breathe, right? And that's really what the most important thing is as we work through this organizing our homes, our lives, is that like sort of shoulder drop, like, I got that done. I feel like I'm in control. I feel like I know what's going on. I can breathe. I don't know that I talked about this during class, but since that's there, I'll bring it up again. There's a little section in the book about breathing. And sometimes when we're really stressed out about stuff, someone will say to you, just take a deep breath. And for some of us, it's like almost annoying. We're like, I don't need to take a deep breath. But it isn't just a nicety that people say to you. There really is a biologic reaction to taking a deep breath. It not only does it give you somewhere else to focus, but it tells your body, okay, things are going to be okay. I'm just going to calm down. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to relax a little bit. I'm going to clear. I don't need to be on high alert. I'm going to be able to clear my mind and change my focus. So really, when someone says to you, take a deep breath, you really should. I mean, it really, no matter how annoying they might be when they're telling you that, it really probably is a good time to actually take a deep breath and let your mind relax a little bit and your body relax and kind of focus in on things. So, all right, my friends, so that is our goal this week. There's lots of things in the checklist. There's lots of steps in this week's process, but your tiny task, the thing that I want you to actually complete, is cleaning up, tidying up, and making your office space your own so that it feels good, right? Maybe it's time to change out the pictures. Like if you have photos in your office area now, maybe it's time to update those pictures or something, and maybe newer pictures of your kids or fresh pictures of your grandkids or something like that. But make it something that you want to look at in the space that you want to be in and that you want to work in, because I want you to do this when you set up your thing here. The goal is to establish those processes and set up a timeline of when you're going to do this work, whether it's going to be daily, or once a week, and no more, once a week for sure, right? You want to get that inbox cleared out at least once a week so it doesn't become overwhelming or backlogged with stuff. But working through each of the steps in the handout this week is going to give you kind of a path to follow for that. So when you put up your progress posts next week, or I really want to see pictures. I want to see before and after pictures of your messy desk or your ugly old pencil cup and your new cute replaced with your new cute pencil cup. Things along those lines, but really make it inviting is my biggest piece of advice for you this week. So do we have any questions, Katie? Or are we doing a fast wrap up today? I guess it's not fast. It's almost half an hour. Once I get going, I can certainly talk.
Yeah, we have no questions tonight, so we're good.
Okay, organizers, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I will see all of you next Tuesday night for our last home organization challenge Tuesday night meetup. And then we have had some questions going forward about going back to Tuesday Night Lives. I wrote some notes here so I would remember. Tuesday Night Live. We will definitely be doing at least one crafty Tuesday Night Live a month. So watch our social media, the Organized Option, for updates on that. Katie and I are working out the details now. So they probably won't start until October, but we'll definitely be back with some crafty Organized Option Tuesday Night Lives coming up. All right, everybody. Take care. I'll see you soon.